Welcome, everybody, to the Sober Life Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I want to thank you for joining us here today. Hopefully, everybody's, their new year got off to a great start, and we're heading into the springtime, and everything's going to be blooming and beautiful. And I hope your lives are blooming and beautiful, too, and I hope everything's going well for you. Take a moment before we start. Hit that like button. Make sure that you share this with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you know what we have coming up. I don't want you to miss out. I have some very special guests here today, and of course, let me get the disclaimer out of the way. We may talk about certain pathways to recovery and or sobriety. We may talk about some very specific things. We don't prescribe to any one solution. There are multiple solutions for all kinds of different people. We're all a little bit different. But listen and learn, because ignorance to one pathway that might work for you could be the difference. So we want to make sure that you guys listen and enjoy this. I've got Spike and Jordan with me. Spike and I, we've been running in the same circles for years. Never really had a chance to meet until just recently, and very, very happy to do that. And of course, Jordan is somebody that you work with in many capacities. So let's start with Spike. Why don't you tell us about you and where you're coming from in the world of recovery?
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it. So me, I always lead with my sobriety date. So July 5th, 1991, I went in front of a judge, and it's the only sobriety date I ever had. And in case you can't do the math, this summer, God willing, by the grace of God, I have 35 years. But about me personally, I go to a few fellowships, but for me, I'm mostly an AA person. And as Scott said so beautifully, if you're listening to this and you go to therapy or you go to other 12-step programs, whatever you do that's good for you is good for us. The most important thing that is that a man or a woman finds their path should they need to or want to. And if we can be of some help, that's great. I will tell you that Jordan and I know each other a few years. And we have formed something that I like to feel as though is like sober advisors. We're both in the program. And what could be better as I'm a sponsor of 13 Men? I have a sponsor who has 37 years. And what could be better than understanding the financial footwork of a man and woman? When most of my clients, 50 or 60% of them, most of my clients are either work in recovery, own detoxes or treatment center, or they have been hurt or afflicted by someone, as our families have, as my family has. So without any further ado, I will tell you that it's great to be able to have some exposure, but also if I can help anyone personally or professionally, I go by Spike. My telephone number is 954-817-6968. It's very easy to check out Richard Rothkopf on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm a Parkland guy, but in Broward and Palm Beach County, 75% of my clients are there. So that's a little bit of an introduction on me, and like to pass it over now to my partner on this, Jordan.
Thanks for the intro, Spike. So, guys, my name is Jordan. I'm in my 5th year of recovery, and haven't had a drink or any substance for that matter in over 4 years. And it's a blessing, right? Because for me, sobriety isn't about the man you are in a program or in a meeting, right? It's about how we show up now, personally and professionally. The man we are with our family, the man we are with our clients, the man we are at work. So for me, getting sober was just the beginning, right? And then I worked on becoming the best version of myself possible. And, it's a night and day difference versus, the version of me who was drinking and drugging or partying or just wanting to have fun in college versus the version of me today who's a family man who, shows up at work. I manage a team of guys at work, and it's all blessings that, are all thanks to me just making that step in my life into the right direction.
That's fantastic. And first of all, I appreciate both of you. I think what we need more of is representation of recovery lifestyle, sobriety. there's too many people that try to keep that to themselves. And I always explain to people, I was never quiet when I was out throwing up in the street. I was never quiet about that. But then all of a sudden I got in recovery and I started being quiet about my life. And here you guys are, let's just put it all out there. Why is that important, Spike, that we talk about ourselves and talk about our recovery?
Scott, it's a great lead. For me, men and women have such an issue once they get clean, in thinking about where they've been, where they are, and where they go forward. One of the greatest tools in both my personal life as a sponsor, if you ask me the best title that I've ever had, it's not financial representative. It's not financial advisor. It's sponsor. And the reason why I feel that way is I take a personal interest, not that anyone can be a good conduit between them and their God, but I have a really nice track record because I followed what the guys did before me. Can't mention their names and wouldn't do that to them and wouldn't. But let's just say that my sponsorship tree lineage is connected to the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. But more importantly, or as important is, I ask for help. If you're listening to this, what's the big deal if you have a resentment or you have a secret, not on a webcast, not on a podcast, pull someone aside. Women stick with women and men stick with men. The only thing I want to add to that is most people in recovery have damaged their lives. I did. I know Jordan did. I've damaged my parents. And so in our view, how do I tie the sobriety into the business conversation? It's very, very easy. Most men and women in recovery have drug histories or criminal histories. Jordan and I have figured out a way. It's not like I'm that smart, Scott. 18 or 19 years ago, when I got into this business, I didn't know where my business was going to come from.
Right.
But what could be better than when I sit with a guy that I sponsor, or I sit with a guy that I know from a meeting, and his wife has a child, and they have a baby or two, and they say, Spike, can you explain to me a little bit about the coverage for my family?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a good start. Jordan, would you like to add anything
I
to
don't
that?
remember. Can you give me the
Jordan,
question?
first of all, I want to ask Jordan a question, though.
Yeah.
Because you said, Spike, you said quite proudly that the most important title you've ever had is sponsor. I got to ask you, being relatively newly married,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. Let's see if the young kid knows anything. What is the most important title you've ever had?
To be the best husband on planet Earth.
All right. You learned it well, folks.
Yeah.
I just had to check because, or else we could have been saying goodbye to him right now. I mean, that could have been it. No, that's terrific. We were just basically talking about, Spike took us in a great direction of being of service to others and helping people and living our recovery out loud, how important that is. Have you found that too? And you're in a different generation than, say, Spike and I.
100%.
Is there any pressure to keep that to yourself, or do you feel like...
Well, like you mentioned, right, it's such a different day and age today, where a
Yeah.
lot of kids today are guys and gals that are, recently out of school, out of college. They're on that, they want the instant gratification, right? The dopamine fix, whether it's scrolling, gambling, drug, whatever it is, right? So it's a tricky space. And I'm sure it even was when you guys were young too, but today even more so. So for me, there's a fine line between not wanting to be the guy that's going to ruin the party or whatever if I'm around people that want to enjoy themselves, but also being, I know what I can and can't do. And for me, I've had my fun. And today I have to stay away from drinking and drugging to be the best version of myself possible, right? So, but yes, of course, if there's someone, family knows, friends know, if someone has an issue in my circle, they know, call Jordan, right? See how Jordan did it. And that's how this thing's done, right?
Yeah.
Because you can go to school, you can get a degree on addiction or this or that, but the real men and women that have gone through it and not cured their issue, but have corrected their issue and are on the right path today are uniquely qualified, right? So for me, it's more attraction rather than promotion, just living and being the best version of myself today. Where others, they might say, how did you make that change? Because they know the guy I used to be, and then they see me today and they're like, if if that's an issue they need to address, they're going to sit down with me.
You know, I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
I wanted to add something to that. You know, a lot of men are into sports.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to a driving range and you see a pro hit a golf ball, you look at him and you see how he sets up, how he puts the club in his hand, where he stands, where is the ball, the front or the back, and you try to mimic and puppet that swing.
Right.
Recovery is completely the same. My words right now, I sound very together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that 30, 35 years ago, I wasn't too together. So what I did is I started to listen to guys with experience in life on how to be a faithful man in recovery, how to stay away from the trouble spots. And how you do that is you ask people that have been down the path before.
Yeah.
Now I'm a man of experience, but in the beginning, I didn't have that experience. My wife and I are married 16 years. She's unbelievable, but yes, she shares me with Creative Financial, our company,
Mm-hmm.
and with Alcoholics Anonymous and sponsorship. And she's wonderful. But that gives you a little bit of an idea, the golf analogy or a baseball swing. If a guy is mad at his boss, people come into, the men and women that come into Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or any 12-step program probably have some things in the way they think that they need to get help or clarity on. And I did. Some days I still do.
Right.
And so, it gives you a little bit of an idea on if I can do it, you can do it, and how you try to do the best you can. But it is a beautiful thing. For Jordan and I, we're not better than anyone else or less than anyone else. But think about it. If we live right and we don't lie, cheat, or steal, and I know for sure that we both do that, and to add value to people's lives in some of the tools that we use to secure protection for their children and family or build some cash in some of the things we do. We're not geniuses, and that's why I've been lucky and fortunate to stick with a few areas in life.
Well, it's a common thought in all of life. Forget about recovery, all of life. If you're going to do something, you talk to somebody who's done it. If I'm trying to book a trip and I think I want to go to Tahiti and my neighbor went to Tahiti, it's a common thing. You go next door, you ask the neighbor, how did you get there? What was the best thing? Is it worth going? You'll learn. We do that with everything. We do it with restaurants. Should I go to this restaurant? You ate there last week. Was it any good? So why wouldn't we do it in recovery? Why does it become such a hassle to ask people and to just find out what they did? And you don't have to follow everybody. As a matter of fact, if you ask one person and decide that's the only person you're going to follow, I feel sorry for you. And I got a bridge I'd like to sell you in Brooklyn. All right. But ask around a lot of people. Find something that works for you. But asking
100%.
is a part of everyday life. But why do we get so hung up on it when it becomes personal? Jordan?
It's a good point, right? And for me, before I was humbled enough to step into my recovery, right, or step into the rooms, telling me anything or me going and getting some advice, it just wasn't in the realm of possibility back then. I thought I had all the answers. And sometimes in life, we have to look in the mirror and say, look, I don't have all the answers, right? Someone might be better at this, or this than me. Let me go ask them how they do that, right? And the universe has always rewarded me whenever I've, had humility and I've, went to someone and looked for a piece of advice, no matter what it's about, whether it's about relationships, whether it's about business, whether it's about, fitness, whatever it is. There's always someone out there that might have a way for you to improve. Or at the very least, you might learn what not to do based on what someone tells you.
Oh, absolutely. Cautionary tales are everywhere.
100%. And it's like the old me used to have to put my hand on the stove to realize it was hot. When my mom would say, the stove's hot, don't touch it. But I had to find out for myself. Today, I'll listen to those warnings or those pieces of advice so I don't have to make all the mistakes myself, right? And
absolutely. Some people don't even listen to their own experiential evidence.
Exactly.
I touched the stove once, it was hot. Well, maybe it won't be hot this time. Well, no, it's still going to be hot. We don't even listen to ourselves, let alone other people.
Good point.
Scott, thank you so much again for having us. I mean, I feel good. It's like we're talking as three recovery men, and I already feel better about it. Sometimes, it's very, very right on target what Jordan said. And what Jordan said is like, sometimes you want to help someone. And sometimes if you can't help them up, you help them down.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just step back and wait for the call. I have a 30-minute meeting with a guy. Some of the guys that I sponsor are unbelievably successful. I don't go to a meeting and say, hey, everyone, Jordan and I are in the financial business. If you're successful, call us. No, it's attraction, not promotion. The way in which it works is if you can't help someone, do your best. If somebody pushes your buttons or somebody says something derogatory, do your best at pausing. I have a 30-second pause. When I get to my driveway at the end of the day, through ups and downs in my day, I don't go into my house and say, hey, honey, how you doing? Without expecting, maybe she found a pair of jeans and instead of $400, they were $200. And I'm walking into that because some real world people have other things.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, and I'll turn it back over to Jordan, a lot of the guys are short-term instant gratification people. And I've become more about not that impulsivity, Jordan.
Right.
The 30 and 40-year-olds have it. They'd rather buy a $150,000 Hummer and show their friends about that than do a $250 a month retirement plan.
Right.
So it's just a question of where someone's at in life. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah. I think I answered it already.
Yeah.
Was there a second part?
I think where you're going with the financial, though, is interesting because as we're talking about speaking up and saying I need help with alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health, whatever it might be, whatever we're talking about here. What even makes that worse is when there's a financial element attached. It creates, I don't want to talk about my finances. I don't want to, maybe your finances, maybe your problem is you don't know what to do with certain money. Maybe the problem is I'm losing money faster than I can bring money in. Any of these problems, no matter what part of the financial industry you work in, there's always that little bit of shame attached to money, isn't there? And it's hard to get people to open up and talk.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Like, to step back one, piece of that is especially those that are newly sober or in their first few years of recovery. Because look, you go through treatment or you come out, you get some time, and it's okay. Now the body's healing, but what about retirement? What about protecting my family? What about, how do I get there, right? Where do I start? So it's a tricky place, right? And we usually want to, crawl before we walk and walk before we run. You never want to sit down with someone and start doing everything, right? Let's plan for retirement. Let's get your life insurance.
That could be overwhelming.
Let's get this, it's let's start somewhere. What's the dominant need, right? Someone's newly sober, but they're making decent money. Maybe before we even thinking about retirement, but they have a wife and, a newborn. We need a small life insurance policy to, God forbid anything happens to you, right? What's going to happen to them, right? And being newly sober, it's a tricky process because it's, if there's criminal history, if there's treatment, if there's certain prescriptions, underwriting can be tricky. Spike and I know that side of the business, right? We have great relationships with the underwriters. We know how to word things the right way. And that's kind of our value prop with those guys and gals in recovery. And, 1 second on that is if someone, for example, they want a policy and they call State Farm, who doesn't know anything about recovery, doesn't know that this person's, has X amount of years and they're doing this, or this, they might just get an instant decline if they go to Ethos or State Farm. If they sit down with Spike or, myself, we know how to word that to the underwriters and we know who to call. We know which company to go to. We know how to say, this person's working a program. This person has 5 years sober, 3 years sober. This person does this, and this to maintain their recovery. The underwriters look at that a lot differently than just a random, Jake from State Farm application.
May I add something? Sorry, Scott, I want to add something to that. Although we do know who the underwriters are lenient, 50% of my clients are more in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I do a good fact find. I don't incriminate anyone, but definitely we have more lenient underwriters in recovery. And I say, listen, this person has 3.5, 4 years. They go to 3 meetings a week. I write a nice cover letter. Bob and Samantha, I'm making up the names. Bob and Samantha want to get covered for their children.
Don't worry about it. I know Bob and Samantha. Nobody likes them, so you can talk about it.
No. But wait, I wanted to parrot this, and Scott, you will get this as good as we do. The same way Jordan just said, when someone's new or relatively new, they don't know what to do. They're afraid to talk about money. Think about the first time we sat with a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
What is this guy going to do? What does he want from Spike? What do I have to do? The same exact thing, but we really have done nicely with referrals because we don't like anyone to bite off more than they can chew. We like to go slow and steady, easy does it. Same way with a sponsor. He goes, I want you to call me every day, Spike, and do a meeting a day. To someone that's new, that's not so easy to call
Absolutely.
a stranger. So I'm just saying there's a parallel between the newness of recovery and to get started with someone financially. It's exactly the same. That's all I have to say.
I just got to ask, dealing with the financial stuff and everything, and I won't spend all the time on this because this is something where you can check this out, create a financial network, and find out maybe what's available for you there. Have you guys discovered, since you really started paying attention to this, were people being taken advantage of? And does that happen? People new in recovery, are people taking advantage of them financially?
100% in anything, right? You can go buy a used car and get a hit over the head from the car dealership, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
you got to work with someone who's trusted.
No offense to my car dealer buddies.
Someone who has a good reputation.
You know who you are.
Because one thing I'll say, right? There's a lot of licenses when you're a financial advisor. But for example, when we're just looking at life insurance, it doesn't take a Harvard degree to get your 215, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might sit down with someone who's just in it for the commissions, who's just in it to build a policy that's better for the advisor than the client, right? You have to sit down with a true fiduciary who's with a firm that has a good reputation, local in the community, and they're not worried about making a lot of money on one policy. They're in it for the long run, right? When I sit down with a client, even if it's going to be the smallest, no commission deal, right? My goal is to do such a good job with that individual that they go shout from the rooftops. Talk to Jordan, right? He's going to take care of you. Talk to Spike. These guys, I trust them with my life, and that's what we're in it.
A great way to go. In addition, great points, Jordan and Scott. No more thank yous today. That's my third thank you. You can go on LinkedIn, check us out. You can also go on Facebook. The best thing to do is you definitely could find a few people that have done business with us and like us and trust us. That's the best way to even develop a relationship with someone. And a professional at a big company may not know how to answer some of those questions. Have you ever in the last 10 years? Are you on any medicine? Have you ever been prescribed? There's a lot to it, and we try to do what's best for you. And if it's not ready for you, Jordan and I would say to you, you need another couple of years and get back to us. Right now, it would not be a good idea for you. And we'll tell them that and build a long-term relationship with them that way, because we're not the right fit for everybody. But if you're in the program and you're in recovery and you are thinking about life the way that we are, my budget was terrible in the beginning. I saved $3,000 living with my mom and dad, and I thought I was very rich.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was extremely liquid. My mom and dad at 29 and 30 years of age used to help me. My car payment, my Honda, was $288. I got $144 from my mom and dad. It's 35 years later, and I'm talking about my mom and dad helping me. We know it's not easy. What we're trying to do is help you at the long term with your family, but also if we can be of maximum service to you, recovery-wise and or financial, great. If we can't, we're going to continue to do these kind of things to get a little bit more exposure, and it might be the right time for you 3 years from now or 3 weeks from now. Still will be our pleasure, Scott, and we thank you.
And I'll say one more thing on the business stuff, and then we can go back to the why we're really here and talk more about recovery, living sober, whatever else we have on the agenda. But like one thing I'll say, right, is Spike mentioned a good part of our book is guys and gals in recovery, but there's other parts to the business, right? I have a piece of my business that focuses with attorneys. I have a piece of my business where we focus with professional athletes. It's any and everyone, right? But the main piece of it is those that are having trouble getting underwritten, or maybe even someone who's had no history with drug and alcohol, but they're in the recovery business, right? Maybe they're a 1099 at a treatment center, or they're the owner of a treatment center, and they don't have these corporate benefits. They don't have corporate 401k with a match, and they're saying, what do I do, right? What kind of insurance do I need? How do I put money aside for retirement? What's this Roth IRA? What's a 401k? What's the difference? We help those guys and gals make heads or tails of that too. It's not just exclusive to those in recovery. So it's a little bit of everything.
So would it be safe to say that you want to be the answer, guys, that if somebody has a question, call and ask?
100%.
Because a lot of people, it's like, once they get them on the phone, the only thing they care about is closing the deal. But there's some people who just need some information. And then maybe, obviously you treat them right, they can become a client down the road. But do you encourage people to call with questions about anything, whether it's insurance related, financially related, whatever?
100%. And you might even want to call us about a policy you have with another firm, and you want a free document review on this, and you want to know, did this agent do it the right way or the wrong way? Am I paying all kind of fees on this? What's going on with this plan? Even if it has nothing to do with us, we're happy to give you an unbiased review on it. And like you mentioned, there's no question that's not worth asking. Whether if we're talking about personal finances or protecting your family, pick up the phone, get in touch with us, and sit down with us. And our goal most of the time is not a sale, right? It's an educational piece. We're going to do such a good job educating you and making you feel good about this or this, where if there's a piece of business that's to be earned, you're going to want to come to us. But that's the second piece.
Sometimes we sit with the wife. We sit with the CPA. We sit with someone else that you guys and girls trust. Not a problem. It's all good. Because if that's someone that you deem a trustworthy person, if you trust them, we trust them. And we don't shy away from that.
I want to talk about it. So again, Creative Financial Network. Do you know the website?
Yeah, it's cfnsfl.com. My email's Jordan S as in Sam at cfnsfl.com. You can reach Spike. Yeah. He'll give you a little info on that. We'll probably put some stuff in the description. Absolutely. And if you have questions too, guys, and you want to be whatever, post a comment on this video. We'll get in touch with you.
As active sponsors, remember, everything is private. Your confidentiality is very important to us. So you can ask us a question, we'll respond. And we really, as a sponsor of 13 people, even though it sounds a little prideful, that it's very, very personal and private if we choose to do business with you, or if you choose to give us an opportunity to earn your trust and confidence. So your stuff stays vaulted. I think that's important, Scott.
Spike, you've mentioned something to me before about, and I want to delve into this now.
Good.
Sober advisor. Now we've seen sober coaches, we've seen sober lifestyle people, we've seen sponsorship. Sober advisor, is this something like, are you guys putting yourself into a spot that hasn't been there before?
No, I guess, Scott, quite frankly, there are other like-minded men and women in recovery, let's just use the word recovery, who could do a lot of the stuff that we do.
Okay.
But unless they've really walked in the shoes, I violated my probation in 1989 and 1990. I got clean in 1991. Unless they understand, when I apply for life insurance, a question might say with certain carriers, have you ever committed a crime? I have to say yes. But there are carriers that say in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years. So just to give you an idea.
So this is a term really connected to the work that you do.
Yes, and because we're both. He has done unbelievably. I wouldn't have went to Jordan 2 or 3 years ago when I first met him. I went to Jordan now because I've seen the success in his personal life, he's just starting to ramp up. I'm not winding down, but I'm your age, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm a paranoid guy in certain ways, which makes me very good at the products we sell. That's all.
Yeah, and again, we're sober guys and we are advisors. So you're speaking with a sober mind, but also understands that niche part of the business of guys and gals in recovery or in that business that need benefits and they need a plan for retirement. That's, we like to make it simple.
It's nice to have that kind of connection in areas you might not expect to see it. You might not expect to see it in financial advising and insurance and things like that. You might not see that kind of connection, but you guys have created that.
Right.
A friend of mine runs Sober AF Productions, and he basically goes around to different events and creates sober spaces at sporting events, concerts, things like that. Sober tailgate parties, sober seating sections, all this stuff. So we're starting to see it in the entertainment industry space for sober. So it's nice to see this, and for people to just be right up front. Now, with in your 5th year of recovery,
Correct.
in 35th year and 5th year, did you immediately from the beginning of your recovery, and you can answer it if you want to, but were you this open about things, or did something happen along the way where you said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to talk about it?
There's no, like, it wasn't chronological for me. In the beginning, I was probably completely open because, I wanted, I was more honest then. And then, you get your life together and certain things are happening and you become a little bit more reserved. But then it gets to the point where there's nothing to shy away from, right? No one likes an active alcoholic or an active addict. It's just they're selfish. There's nothing great about them. But everyone likes a recovered alcoholic or addict because they're the most selfless people and generally the most hardworking people on this planet, right?
Spike, we lived a different reality.
Well, one second.
Years ago.
I feel terrible if I don't say this. So I've always broke my own anonymity, which
Sure.
I'm allowed to, even
Yes.
by a sponsor. I've been breaking it since I had 10 years, all the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but not. In Parkland, where I live, and in Broward County and Palm Beach County, one guy was in trouble. He knew who to call.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I saved his life. I'm his sponsor. He came in 7 years ago. He has 7 years clean and sober. But at least he knew who to call. And everybody has their own thing, Yes, I don't think you should, shout it from the rooftops. But for me personally, I would.
I do, because that's part of what makes life great. But years ago, and I'm talking 40 years ago,
Wow.
35 years ago, it wasn't the kind of thing where you could just say, yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic at your new job. And they'd
Right.
all be like, oh, that's great. They would be like, well, what the hell does that mean? What
Right.
is
We're
that?
not giving you a key.
It's different. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I wouldn't get a key.
He's
to
a good guy, but don't leave him alone in the
storage area,
building.
right. Make sure Bob brings hits the office before Spike.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So some of that went on, and it's changed over time. I mean, thank God for Hollywood, because they started exposing people to people going into rehab, coming out clean and sober. I mean, Robert Downey Jr., who's just out loud about everything he's done.
Unbelievable.
And nowadays it's a different world that you're coming into. Where you can't even get a starring role in a film until you've gone to at least 3 rehabs. That's the rule.
That's
right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well,
It's true.
The reality of this is this disease, call it whatever you want, it doesn't shy away from anyone. It goes everywhere, right? Everyone knows someone that's either dealt with or dealing with or dealt with it themselves. If we're talking about alcohol, we're talking about drugs, we're talking about gambling, we're talking about sex, we're talking about overeating. Everyone either dealt with one of those issues or knows someone or is related to someone who's dealt with it. And when you know those people and you've seen those people overcome that and in lieu of that do better in life, how can you hate on that, right? And one thing I'll say is the incredible thing about addiction or alcoholism is it's a disease, right? It has to be treated. But once you treat that disease, once you treat the alcoholism or the addiction, personally, I believe you become a better person than you were before you had the disease or before you treated it. Any other life-threatening disease out there, you treat it, your goal is to get to the way you were before you treated it, not better. If you have cancer and you go through treatment for that, your goal is to get to the way you were before you had the cancer. But when you have alcoholism and you treat it, your goal is to become a better person than you were before you dealt with that or before you treated it. So that's the incredible thing about it to me.
I think it makes sense if you think about the nature of what alcoholism is. It doesn't exist as a tumor that's growing.
Right.
It doesn't exist as a blood-borne pathogen. It doesn't exist as that where we could say, let's cut out the alcoholism.
Right.
It exists in every form, symptom, thing, thought, emotion, even physiological reactions to substances. It's in all of those. So that basically treating alcoholism is improving the self.
Correct.
I'm not going to make anger leave alcoholism. I've got to make anger leave, we'll call him Bob.
Exactly.
So Bob's going to come out a less angry person, and then he starts to transcend that disease. Now, it always dormant, always
100%.
there, but how dormant it is depends on how much you want to keep going up and building yourself and becoming better.
Beautiful. You're a very knowledgeable guy, Scott. Right on.
I read that. It was comic book.
That's all right.
But you're right.
Because for the rest of my life, I have to be able to be in a place where I trust the men around me.
Right.
Good sponsorship, good meeting attendance. It's not like if I didn't go to a meeting for a week, I'd be screaming at my wife. I would not be so unbelievable at work. So for me, it's a one day at a time. It's a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. And most of the time I'm in good shape, but I have days or hours where I'm off, and I need people around me to turn me back in to that.
Well, the problem is that you could deal with alcoholism, you could deal with drug addiction, but the one worst problem that we have is that human stuff. That's the worst thing we carry with us, and that's never going to go away. So the only thing we can do is make that better and become I love how you said that. You're not trying to get back to where you were. You're trying to become better, because where you were was what launched the alcoholism or the drug addiction.
Right.
It launched from there. And the problem was there before the drink or the drug ever came in. Now it gets enhanced and all that. We could talk about that all day, and we will. And we will in future shows. We'll talk more about stuff like this.
Well, if I could add,
please.
You were right on the money. You said it's a symptom, right? And that's the reality of it. If we look at it's all one beast, right? It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be overeating, it could be gambling. Those are all just legs to the beast, and the beast is the issue that internally is making you do those things, right? That it's those are symptoms. Those are not the issue, right? The issue is the internal. So when we go through any of these programs that we've all kind of hinted at, the goal is to get under the hood and work on that spiritual defect or those issues inside that are making us go numb ourselves in the gambling, or numb ourselves in the drinking or the drugging. Once you treat internally and you get under the hood and you figure out why you were doing that stuff, and it's different for everyone. There's no one specific answer. Sometimes it's a combination of those. Right. Sometimes it could be losing the girl you thought you were going to marry. Sometimes it could be losing a lot of money. Sometimes it could be childhood trauma. Who knows what it is, but until you get under the hood and identify which issues you're dealing with, you're not going to get anywhere, right? But that's
the best people.
I like that.
We'll close with this. The best people that I've ever met are recovered men and women. The best all around people.
I just got to say, I love people who are in recovery from anything, even if it's from a fatal illness like cancer or something like that. Whenever somebody has been up against it, they've seen the darkness, they've seen the despair, the loneliness, the real desperation, not like made up desperation, like, oh, life is hard. I'm talking about like real desperation.
We understand.
Once somebody has seen that, the light shines brighter for them. Everything seems different. Yep. They become more interesting, more loving, more caring, better human beings. And regular people bore me. I'm sorry, regular people. Most of them bore me. I like people who've gone through hard times.
He likes regular. If you're irregular, come to the spike. I like irregular. Me and Scotty.
I don't want to insult regular. No, now it's like, now we're picking on us because we have no problems.
I think some of us are envious too of the regular people.
Sure.
And one thing I want to clarify was that early on you asked me about people my age or how it was dealing with at my age. Nothing against anyone who can go out, have fun on the weekend, and show up Monday ready to go. That just wasn't me. If I used to have fun on the weekend, it would bleed into the week, and that was my issue. And I had to nip that in the bud if I wanted to get to where I wanted to in life and meet the wife I have today. And all that was only possible by making those changes. Other people are able to live great, successful lives while they can moderately drink or moderately gamble or moderately use whatever it is. That just wasn't me. So no knock on any of those people.
No.
I wasn't. I'm sorry. Last thing. I wasn't invited to a party in the last month at a snooty Parkland client's house because some of them smoke pot. and they didn't invite me because they didn't want me to, take their inventory, But I just thought that was so crazy. Anyway, people do what people need to do, and if they can use in moderation and not get in any trouble, good for them. It's not my job to be the police.
I'm going to tell you, folks, that if you enjoy spending time with Spike and Jordan as much as I have today, if you've enjoyed the show, stick around because they're going to be coming back, and we're going to be creating a show specifically for Spike and Jordan. They're going to be talking sobriety, life stuff, a little bit of financial advice possibly, but they're going to be able to interact and help you guys. But the big thing is that these guys represent hope and what can be done with work and with trust and with faith, and you guys represent that. And I'm proud to be sitting next to you. I think you guys are great gentlemen. I'm going to ask you to close with one last thought for each of you. Right now, somebody's sitting and listening. And they're deathly afraid that there's something wrong, but they're even more afraid to ask for help. What do you want to tell them? Spike, we'll start with you.
Good. Love to do 1 or 2 minute private call, 954-817-6968. If it leads to friendship, and if it's not something, if it's a female, I will refer her to some of the best females in this county.
Yeah.
Good point. And one thing I'll add on that is if you're not ready to ask for help, or maybe you're just not ready, pray on it. I don't want to get too spiritual. I don't want to talk about this God, religion, whatever it is, but pray on it. Genuinely. Ask God. If you know you need to make some changes in your life, whatever it is, whatever type of change that is, and you need to ask for help, but you're not ready to do it, ask God, right? And ask God for the strength to ask for help. And I promise you, that'll be the first step for you.
Fantastic. Folks, I want to thank you for spending some time with us here today at the Sober Life Podcast, coming to you right here at the Sober Life Studios. And remind you that this show is brought to you by One Brother, One Sister. If you want to get involved, help first responders deal with mental health and addiction crises, and you want to donate, help us make sure that we reach more and more first responders. We've trained well over 3,000 people in the last couple of years, and we're still trying to get more. There's so many that need our help. It's time for us to stand up and maybe protect our protectors. Go to onebrother1sister.com. You can make your tax-deductible donation right there. Also, want to let you know, please, you liking the show, putting a comment in, and certainly following this channel. It always is very, very helpful. All of you, remember, every day, do 2 nice things for yourself, 1 nice thing for somebody else, and you'll never go wrong. I'm Scott Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.